I met my late husband there, and we had our kids there. We started our companies there. Aaron passed away, and that was just such an upending moment. My whole life was upside down. We had raised something like $40 million and created this sort of Airbnb for pets platform. Sold something like 150K in a day, just on the day that it was featured on the Today Show. In documenting it, I had so many strangers coming up to me and saying, "You're changing my life, you're inspiring." And I was like, well, why is my sad story inspiring? And then I started to understand that people suffer and that people do not want to feel alone. Sometimes you don't know who you are until you're tested. I found ways to feel tremendous gratitude for understanding certain aspects of my character. Every mistake is growth, right? Every hit, every tragedy, every trauma, everything that comes up in your life is an opportunity. The shift is falling in love with your life, seducing yourself with the grind, making it make sense to you. Done is better than perfect. And I think sometimes you gotta get things done, especially as an entrepreneur. That not overthinking is the difference between the people that have started things and not.
Welcome to Stacked, the show that helps you become your own best asset. Because in case you missed it, you're allowed to have a high vibe and a high net worth. Welcome back to Stacked, the show that helps you become your own best asset. Today, we're talking about turning pain into power with Karine Nissim, serial entrepreneur, award-winning writer, and podcaster. After the unexpected loss of her husband, Karine launched DayNew, a tech platform for community for people navigating grief and trauma. Previously, she co-founded Dog Vacay that later merged with Rover and built Shmask, a viral product during the pandemic. We'll keep this 101 practical and talk about building a real support system that scales and the unsexy behind the scenes of what it takes to build consumer brands. Karine, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of you, Emily.
I'm a big fan of you.
Yay. Mutual appreciation.
Mutual appreciation. Yes. I'm so excited to have you here on the show today because I feel like we always have these just like incredibly meaningful, deep conversations that every time we talk, it really impacts me and is so influential in my life. And I wanted to be able to bring some of those conversations to more people because I think it's just, they're so valuable. And I'm so grateful for all of the knowledge that you've been able to share with me over the not so long time that we've known each other.
Yes. Well, I've also I'm touched to know you and to keep connecting and feel like even though, we're not that far apart, that if I can say, I'm proud of you, and I'm a fan.
The feeling is mutual.
Thank you.
So let's go back. I want to go back to the beginning, your family life, where you grew up, just go all the way back to the beginning and then go through everything. So where did you grow up? What was your family life like?
So I was born in Israel and I moved to Italy for a short while. I'm the firstborn. And then to New York and then to New Jersey. By the time I was 5, I had lived in a few different places and learned different languages, and then basically raised in North Jersey from 5 to 12, and then moved to South Florida from 12 onwards. Went away to college in DC, came back to Florida, went away for grad school in Los Angeles. And I met my late husband there, and we had our kids there. We started our companies there. And then upon our exit, we decided to move to Florida to be in the East Coast next to family and to raise our kids here. As far as my family life, an interesting kind of immigrant culture, very entrepreneurial, and a lot of dinner conversations that, deconstructed how businesses worked. Okay. So I developed an appetite for that. But then I also was very interested in storytelling and got into filmmaking and writing and acting and directing. And so that's what brought me out to LA. And then when I met my late husband, Aaron, we had started another business. I had started a business before that. And then by the time this third one came around, which is called Dog Vacay, we had figured out a few things, and it was a right place, right time. And, you know, an interesting trajectory that was very quick. We had raised something like $40 million and, you know, created this sort of Airbnb for pets platform that just made a great amount of sense at the time. And it was a fun ride because we had our 3 kids at the same time too.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to unpack here, but I know, so like when you started the business, it was kind of out of personal need. You guys had a dog. You were struggling to find a dog sitter when you would travel.
Well, every single time that we would want to go back to the East Coast to visit family, we had 2 dogs, and it would just cost a fortune, and the options were not great, and the dogs came back like worried and more anxious energy and kennel coughs and all the things. And so we felt like there had to be a better solution than friends and family who often flake on you or a typical kennel. And we started to actually host dogs in our home. And it became crazy because the amount of demand was outrageous. I was able to quit my job and write screenplays from our sofa and hang out with a few pups at a time. And what evolved was an interesting business where I saw very quickly that, you know, the business model my parents had, you know, dealt with most of my young life of this kind of not having as much demand and, you know, luxury goods and you know, very recession sensitive, right? Like that wasn't the case in the pet industry. And so it evolved to kind of be this wonderful journey through entrepreneurship and discover different pitfalls like disintermediation, which means clients that go off of the platform, or, you know, dogs that misbehave, or, you know, hosts that misbehave. But really, you know, at the end of the day, we learned a lot, and it was a really beautiful experience.
So was this your first company that you had started as a couple?
No, we actually started another one beforehand with a few other founders. It was pretty informal and it didn't last long, but I think the big lesson there was too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And with this one, we knew what mistakes to avoid, and we also had it was just a good idea, you know, and so people were into it. And, you know, the pain points that we experienced were just relatable, right? So it's an easier story to tell.
Yeah. So what was it like working with your partner? How did you guys kind of like divide up roles and responsibilities? How did you separate work life from your relationship, from the kids?
So I would say that, you know, it was really interesting in the beginning because there was a kind of ego balance, and I was pregnant and I had 3 kids in 3 years. And I also, like, on the other side, you know, love dogs, but it wasn't my passion point because I really came from the film world and that's what I was passionate about. But I saw that it was kind of our chance, you know, and so I went in, like, all in, you know, discovered some of my strengths, discovered some of my weaknesses, and the same with Aaron. And, you know, there was a balance for sure. And there was a lot of conversations, but like some of our most magical moments were having those conversations, having the ability to not just navigate life as a traditional couple, but also as business partners. So some of the best advice I got from a friend was, one of you has to be a boss, and I don't think you want it to be you, right? And she was right, because I was very much excited to be a mom, and I was going through a lot of physical changes, right? So I knew that I was gonna kind of be in and out, and I knew that he was better equipped for the role of running that company at that time. And that really my job was to help it get liftoff, to go all in, and hopefully, you know, help him balance out, you know, his weaknesses, and also encourage his strengths, and also think strategically long term.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And like me personally, it's my dream to build something with a partner and have a family, have, that traditional foundation and relationship, but also build something greater that lasts longer, that isn't just your kids. And I think it's, I've tried doing it in the past and it hasn't been the right fit and it hasn't worked out. But I think I'm always so fascinated by people that are able to build something like a business, a company with a partner, because it's a very unique personality type. It's a very unique skill set. And I think at the end of the day, from the people that I've met and the people that I talk to, it really strengthens your relationship on a completely different level. It's a totally different type of relationship. I think that ends up being a lot deeper and more meaningful than just a traditional partnership.
Well, I'm gonna balance that.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're romanticizing it a little bit.
I'm totally romanticizing.
I'll say this: most people that start out as partners in business don't stay partners. It more often doesn't work out than works out.
Yeah.
And it more often in romantic relationships does not work out long term.
Yeah.
And for those that it does, it is a huge part of the relationship and a huge part of conflict.
Yeah.
For us, it wasn't a long period of time. And just by virtue of me having a lot of children all at once, it wasn't a real factor, but I've seen it with many friends. And so what's been really interesting is for my friends and myself, the serial entrepreneurs, oftentimes in the beginning of their careers, they'll take on partners. And at the end of their careers, they'll realize they hire or contract out for wherever they can't fill in, and that there's a cleaner approach to starting business on their own. And my instinct is always to do something with somebody because I like to be reactive to another person and to collaborate, and I like being motivated by other people. I'm just an extrovert, so for me that moves me, and I enjoy it, and I enjoy the processing. But it slows things down, and you can bump into hiccups. And I have definitely helped several friends figure out their way out of partnerships, and I have been helped as well. And I think that there's like a lot of color there. Where I'm moving is actually that I can do things by myself.
Yeah.
And how do I want to do them, and how does it make sense to structure it to compensate for my weaknesses, and also with space and the breadth for the full life that I want to live, right? To take care of myself, to take care of my kids, to still not fall into the grind of that pressure, right? Yeah. But actually execute something I'm really proud of and that can change the world.
Yeah. I think, like for me, where I'm at in my career right now, I feel like everything is exploding and growing so quickly, and I am constantly trying to get my head above water, and I need help, and I'm trying to find who are the right people to bring onto the team, or who are the right contractors to hire. How do I delegate? How do I shift things off of my plate so that I can focus on executing what's important and what's actually driving the business forward? But it's almost like I get into a position of paralysis analysis, and ChatGPT, I joke, is my co-founder, and it's like, how many times can I run these different scenarios through and get advice and get feedback? And at the end of the day, you kind of I feel like you have to make a decision and just go, and it's okay if it's the wrong decision. You learn from it, you pivot, but you have to start.
Yes. I will say I've gone through that a lot since my loss, because to begin with, I'm a pretty decisive person. I was trained as a film director, so I'd have 60 people, coming to me to ask for guidance and different little micro decisions. So it wasn't hard for me, but personally, and making decisions that I felt had higher stakes, like, do I move? Do I stay? Do I, hire this person? Or, bigger life decisions since the loss of my husband in the beginning became so hard because I couldn't help but play this game of chess with myself and think out 10 years or think of all of the different paths that can go and need together the research. And, something my therapist said, which helped me a lot, was yes, but you have your own life experience and you have instinct. And your instinct will serve you, and you can trust that. And you can create a process for yourself where you take some time to research, and then you can make a decision, and it's okay if it's the wrong one. Yeah. Because, the saying that often writers will use is, done is better than perfect. And I think sometimes you got to get things done, especially as an entrepreneur. And that not overthinking is the difference between the people that have started things and not. And so many people have so many ideas. I mean, I have 1,000 ideas. Right. I have so many. Which ones I act on comes down to timing and bandwidth. But I'm often like surrounded by people. I'm like, you seem like you might be able to run this kind of company. Here you go. Here's an idea of mine. I know it will make money if it's executed well, and so it's never really about the idea. My husband always used to say, it's about the execution. Right. And I think it's both. But that decision, what I kind of distilled was that even though we live in the gray scale of enormity, right, of kind of from here to here, most things can be looked at in a linear way of black and white. And, gun to your head, you really have one of two decisions usually. Right. So you just make the one, and then you keep going, and then you pivot when you need to, and you cut your losses when you need to.
I think that's and this goes back to my retail days when I was, working as a buyer and in fashion. We used to always say, fail fast, fail cheap.
Right.
And the idea behind that being, you need to just make a decision and go. And if it's the wrong one, you rip the Band-Aid off once you start getting signal from the market and you pivot. But you have to start somewhere.
Yes. And I would also add that it's hard for me because I am balancing a lot of things, but I think when you are starting out, consistency will get you more than anything else. Yeah. And don't get too impatient with the results. Like, no, it'll probably take you double as long. But like, if you do the same thing and chip away at it a little bit every day or every week, it will amount to things, right? And so, the new year is upon us. Like, let's think about, well, what's the one thing that if I accomplish this in the course of a year, I will feel immensely proud of myself. And it could be something as simple as starting a podcast or writing a novel and that doesn't happen in a day. It happens, a little bit by bit.
Right. Little bit by little bit. And I think if you commit, like I always like to set goals for myself where, I'm going to send out, like for me, it's all right, I'm going to commit to doing a weekly newsletter and we're going to do it for at least a year. We're going to see how it goes. But every Sunday, 5 p.m., that weekly newsletter goes out. We're going to post, X number of times a week or, host X number of events. And having that structure and consistency, it also gives you kind of a roadmap so that you know what you're being held accountable to.
Yes. But also there's a lot of things like that. And I would just urge people to say that they don't need to do all of them. Yeah. I fall victim to that mentality. Well, it's like, well, if I, want to do this angle of my business, then I need a website and then I need social media and I need that to come out 3 times a week. And then I might as well do a podcast. And then while I'm at it, I should probably do a newsletter. And then while I'm at that, I should probably run ads. And then while I'm at that, I should probably do like a Substack or something. And then while I'm at it, I might as well like book, a space and shoot and do my makeup and my hair and then hire the editor. And all of a sudden you're like, chill. Yeah. Like you actually don't need to have social media content every single day. Right. You don't. You can get lost in the marketing machine of your idea, which is extremely important. Right. But it's sometimes the cart before the horse. Yeah. Sometimes you do one thing and you do one thing well, and then you build out from that. And I mean, I can see both strategies working. Yeah. But it just depends if you're like a, on your own or if you've got a
A
team.
team. Yeah. And I think too, like, you don't want to start all of these things at once, right? Like, you start one thing at a time. You have, you know, maybe the first year is you're going to post consistently. And then the next year, maybe you add in a newsletter, or you don't want to jump and do everything all at once because it's not sustainable, I think. And you want to go far, but you want to go slow and strategically at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I would say though, it's like yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
I think you kind of do want to do everything at once, but you don't want to do it all in.
Yeah.
Like, don't focus tremendously on creating content on social media if that's not how you're really going to make your money.
Right.
You know, or like, are you really, you know, like if you keep asking yourself that why question, like, why am I doing this? Sometimes it is about making money. Sometimes it's about saving the world. Sometimes it's just about building your career, you know? So if the goal is in year 1, 2, 3, not actually to make, you know, a crazy cash, but to get yourself out there, to get your name known, to create this kind of like slow building legacy of something that you feel really passionate about, then you get to do a little bit of all of it, but it's like the consistency.
Right.
Like, rather than saying something like, I'm going to post every day, it's saying, I'm just going to post once a week.
Right.
I'm going to have 4 newsletters a year.
Right.
And I'm going to have a website that I keep updated with my events. And I'm going to have 2 events a year. And then that's how you think about starting small.
Right.
Right. So yes, you're doing one thing at a time, but you are still looking at it strategically like a CEO, knowing that oftentimes marketing is the kind of the piece that people aren't seduced by, but it's the most important piece.
100%.
And so you need to cover your bases, you know, and you have to say, for my business is this, and this channel of marketing appropriate.
Right.
Okay. So direct mailers, not so much, but I need social in order to be a trusted brand. Right. And so therefore I'm going to do it once a week, you know? So I have something people can find that gives them information, like another landing page.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to pivot to talk about Shmask.
Okay.
Just for a minute, because I think it's a reflection of you and just being like such a quick thinker on your feet, having an idea, jumping in, going all in on something. And
I mean, you're saying it exactly right.
Yeah. So like, obviously it was the pandemic. Obviously people are wearing masks, but what was like that process like? How quickly did you find your production team, getting all of these channels we just talked about, throwing that up there? Like, let's talk about that. Let's unpack that.
Sure. So I want to give you that story in the context of the bigger thing, because you asked for my full kind of background. So I want to also kind of frame it in the timeline of my work. Okay. Right. So I started out, in the film industry. Then I started a business with my late husband, Aaron, that did not work. Then we started the business that did work. But before those 2 businesses, out of film school, I was running a small business. I was creating like workshop experiences for aspiring writers, actors, and directors, right? And I was hustling for that. And I was very proud of myself at the time, because I was like, oh, look, I've got this corporate 9 to 5, but I'm also doing this on the side because I feel there's a need for it. But I started to quickly understand, right? Like, now I had the lesson of my parents' businesses in my mind. I had the lesson of this business of like the hustle of the sale, right? And then the next business I had done with Aaron, right? That was, the lesson of too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Then the Dog Vacay business was a lesson of, disintermediation, venture capital funding, pressure from those kinds of investors who want to see certain data and results, spending on marketing and how effective that could be. And then my next business after we had exited from that was this business Shmask that just came to me like a lightning bolt in the early pandemic, when I was in bed one night, like scrolling and kind of thinking like about the doom of the world and how am I going to put my precious children in polyester masks all day if they're required. And, what I surmised was, well, what if I created something that was super easy and super cozy and soft? And and felt comfortable on their faces and was attached. And we had traveled with them that summer a little bit and done a lot of stuff outdoors, and their masks kept falling on the floor and they were so disgusting, and they would have snot, and I was just like, ugh, like this has to be better. And I thought like, well, it's kind of like almost like a ninja shirt. And I put on Facebook, who do I know in the t-shirt business? And then people started to just help. And it made me feel so grateful and loved that I had gotten to this point. I must have been like 40 at the time. I was like, wow, like I know people and people want to help me, and everyone's kind of happy to make an intro. Right. And all of a sudden I was talking to manufacturers in China or in Miami, and I was getting prices, and I was starting to understand a business I had no experience in. Which functionally was fashion, which was my dream business as a kid. And all of a sudden I was like Zoom, teaching filmmaking during the day and helping my kids with their classwork, and all night on the phone with different factories and looking at different fabric swatches and creating this, piece of apparel that had like 18 measuring points in the face alone. And it was essentially the Shmask, a shirt with a mask attached, but actually quite difficult to engineer something that felt comfortable on people's different face structures and that would stay up and people would love. And then this little miracle, we got chosen to be featured on the Today Show when people actually really watched TV. And so I quickly launched an adult version of the Shmask, and more colors, and tie-dye was very in at the time. So we had a tie-dye version, and sold something like 100, 150K in a day, just on the day that it was featured on the Today Show. And it was like this miracle moment where not only was it the first business I'd really done on my own since my film school business, it was a business my late husband, Aaron, was very proud of. I could always hear him on different investor calls saying, by the way, my wife just launched this business. I'll send you one, and, and it felt really so nice to kind of be in a household where we both had our own projects that were entrepreneurial, and we got to talk about them, but we really did what we wanted and we ran it how we wanted. And it was a lot of fun. And then, after that airing, we were still getting hits, but then everybody was getting vaccinated and masks became less relevant. And then, Aaron passed away, and that was just such an upending moment. My whole life was upside down, and, running that business was no longer a priority. Taking care of my kids and myself and trying to survive that first year of grief was. And ever since then, it's been this kind of, puzzle that I continue to solve for in a new way every day to figure out, well, what makes sense in my life today? And what are my priorities, and what are my values, and how do I honor that kind of creative entrepreneurial instinct, but still manage my current reality?
So I just wanted to fill in our listeners. So for those of you who don't know, Karine's husband tragically passed away in an unexpected accident, just completely out of the blue. And I don't know if you want to touch more on that, but just to kind of give a little context here. And this was shortly after you had moved to Miami, setting up a whole new life here. And then all of a sudden, everything changed.
Yes. Everything changed. His loss was very unexpected, and moving through it has certainly become the most challenging part of my life, and also quite illuminating, right? I think that sometimes you don't know who you are until you're tested. And I found ways to feel tremendous gratitude for understanding certain aspects of my character, right? And a tremendous amount of empathy for others, because so many people suffered through different kinds of traumas and different experiences, and they hide it. my tragedy was pretty public. Many people are experiencing real trauma behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And so my heart has opened so like wildly open to understanding the human experience and all of its different shapes. And what I became really grateful for was what I did have, right? That I live and breathe, that I have my beautiful children, that we did have, 10 years together, and that we created all these wonderful moments together, and that I, to my core, and have always been, a glass half full kind of girl. Right. And that has been enormously helpful, because even in my worst of worst days, I still have a will to live. I still have a drive to parent my children and to give them the best that I can give them given our circumstances. And then that had turned into an interesting kind of purpose, because, ironically, all that writing that I had done in film school, became this outlet for me, and it showed up on my social media simply because I wanted to document my experience, and because I knew that everything I felt was going to consistently change. And in documenting it, I had so many strangers coming up to me and saying, "You're changing my life, you're inspiring." And I was like, well, why is my sad story inspiring? And then I started to understand that people suffer, and that people do not want to feel alone, and that people genuinely want connection and want to feel seen. Yeah. And it created this strange through line of purpose for me. So in the next business that I launched, DayNew, I felt that I could create a pathway for people to heal and to move forward more effectively, right? To kind of, where they could, end some of the suffering that extends beyond when it should, and to give them the space to appreciate that sometimes it's bad, and it's really hard, but you can keep going, and you're not alone.
Okay, so tell us about DayNew. What is DayNew? Obviously, it stemmed from grief and not wanting to be alone, and just being in kind of darkness and despair. What is DayNew?
So DayNew is an app and a community to support people through life's challenges like divorce, loss, illness, or really any kind of personal growth. Okay. It's great for everybody. And it has a tremendous amount of features that can support you. For example, a self-evaluating tool on how you're feeling emotionally or socially or organizationally. Also, there's an AI coach to kind of gently coax you into moving forward in the ways that you may need to be supported. There's this wonderful task list that's customized to you based on the trauma you've experienced or whatever you're going through in life. And that task list has a public-facing component that you can share privately with your community to get the support that you may need. So for example, in my case, I was flooded with casseroles and books and flowers, but what I really needed was help walking the dog or driving the kids to school or grocery shopping, or somebody to help me with ending, the subscriptions that he had created, or, donating some of his clothes. So it's a way for your community to sign up to support you, even beyond those kind of first 30 days when you're flooded with that support, so that people can continue to show up and actually make an impact in your life and give you the help that you need. And there's, of course, great content and find a friend feature, so you can find somebody going through something similar. More than anything, people want two things when they're going through a challenge. The first thing is connection. Mm-hmm. They want to feel like they're not alone. Mm-hmm. And the second thing is how do I articulate this? It's like the space and the consistency in being able to keep showing up.
Yeah.
Right. And it can be a very long journey. It can be a very overwhelming one. And there's a lot of things on your plate. So there is a lot that went into creating this app. But if I had to put it into a line, it's a customized roadmap to your own healing with great features that you can use however you need.
And it sounds like it's meant to be used in conjunction with therapy or group.
Exactly.
Group counseling. It's another kind of support system.
That's right. That's right. They say that acceptance is the most critical step to being able to move forward. And most people cannot get there because they don't process what they're going through. And so we have some wonderful processing tools like therapy-based questions that you can journal and you can share with the community and find another point of connection there. This self-evaluating tool is great. And then the organizational support that you get it's a form of self-care where you can start to declutter your mind and say, all right, yes, I have 101 things to do in addition to my grieving, but I don't have to do them all at once. And here's an easier, faster way to do them. And so, I like to think of it as a self-care app. And I think it's great for anybody who wants to kind of track the journey of their own emotional health.
Yeah. I mean, I know it was started based on you becoming a widow, but I think it sounds like anyone could really use it if you're going through a job loss, a retirement, like some big
career
life
pivot, an illness diagnosis, anything that starts to kind of say, hey, I'm in this situation and I need to make the best of it.
Yeah.
And I'm overwhelmed. How do I do this? Right? I wanted a platform that could hold the whole journey for you. And that journey can hit different people at different times. Like it doesn't have to be a sudden loss. It could be as simple as, a change in your major in college, or a breakup with a boyfriend or girlfriend, or, losing a pet, right? Like a lot of things in your life can scramble your mind and make you rethink who you are and what you want. Right. And so this is a wonderful tool in your pocket that becomes like a bestie, a therapist, and a coach all in one, and just helps you keep taking those steps forward.
So how can people find DayNew?
Very easily. It's on the App Store. You can go to DayNew.com and get a desktop version. It's just super accessible to anybody.
And is it subscription based?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Amazing. Definitely, you guys check out DayNew. I know that's a resource I wish I had going through different changes in my life. And, you get to a place where you're relying on your friends and eventually you start feeling like you're burdening them. And how can you find your own support system outside? Of course, you need those people, but maybe there's other people going through similar things or completely different things that have the bandwidth to support you in a different way. And you can find them on this platform.
That's right. I find that finding other people going through similar things around the same time as you, those relationships have been transformative for me.
When we talk about, the Dog Vacay, building Dog Vacay, and then eventually merging with Rover, what is a lesson that you took from that experience into building now your new consumer platform, DayNew?
Things change. That's the lesson. So the way we built Dog Vacay is different than the way that we built DayNew. The way we funded for Dog Vacay is different than how I thought about funding for DayNew. The way I marketed, every single thing has changed because there's 10 plus years apart. So it's really important to understand what's out there in the market now with AI and all the tools and all the shifts and all the attention that had been given to startup culture and venture capital, right? Things dramatically changed. How much funding was available, how quick it is to develop an app and a site, how much things cost, how sophisticated the talent is that can support you in executing these things, right? So sometimes you're just a few questions away from getting answers that can save you thousands, if not millions of dollars and many, many hours. And oftentimes those questions are really easily answered by people in your network if you just kind of harness that, we'll call it the, that R&D phase. And so, when you spoke earlier about analysis paralysis, I'll never say that it's not right to research first and to do a little homework and then come up with how instinctually you should move forward, because that research will save you so much, right? And so I would say things dramatically changed between the way we started this business and my most recent one, and it changed while I was developing my recent one, right? Like I wasn't even aware of how easy it was to use AI to create technology in this way. So I think it continues to change. I think it's relevant and important to stay up to date. And also at the end, you just make something good that you're proud of and you get it out there the way that feels the most organic to you, right?
And did you raise any money or did you self-fund?
No, we self-funded DayNew.
So my next question is going to be, it's about Shmask. Shmask's rapid launch, nimble go-to-market strategy. It worked super well, timing, all of it. What is, looking back on that business, what is one thing that you would do differently knowing what you know today?
I think with product-oriented businesses, it's the inventory, the manufacturing, the storage, the logistics of it are challenging. So I had tons of SKUs, like so many sizes, so many colors, so many sleeve lengths. And, when they're flying, but when they're not, they're not. And so I think I wish I had created like fewer colors, fewer SKUs. I also was in such a rush to go to market that I paid premiums to get things, flown instead of shipped. It was all okay because, we did well. But, the other thing that I learned about myself is I'm great to get something going and get it started, but, kind of lose interest in the mundane day-to-day, operations. So when I think about starting anything else, I now think a lot about, how do we keep this going when I'm the one that wants to come in with the ideas and the vision and the strategy, but I don't have the bandwidth to be checking every customer service email or troubleshooting every shipping order, and how do I set up business and make sure that those types of challenges don't become sticking points, right? And it's just about surrounding yourself with good people, knowing yourself and being realistic and balancing it and talking to other business people who solve for a lot of these things. I've found that, amongst my peer group and my friends, there's, great success stories, and the way they manage their life and their business sometimes is a much simpler way than I have ever thought about it. Right? They do hire for certain things, and they do, pay more for certain things, right? And so, you have to not get caught up in yourself, but also make certain decisions in smart ways. And I think going to networking organizations like the event that we went to helps align you with people who are smarter than you and who can give you those shortcuts, and also the correct vendors and people that can give you the right guidance too.
I mean, I think it all comes down to your network and the in-person connections. Shout out to Rhonda Singer. That's how we met. We love Rhonda.
We do.
Rhonda's amazing. But I think I feel like in this day and age and coming off of, you know, the changes of the world in the last 5 years, it's so easy to hide behind a screen and hide behind your phone and go on Reddit or Facebook groups and try to find answers. And honestly, the best jumps forward, quantum leaps forward I've had in my career and business ideas has been from in-person connection.
Yes.
And just literally showing up and saying, I don't know what to do. This is where I'm at. I need help. Like,
yes.
And not being afraid or not being embarrassed to say that, which past me, I was so concerned with the optics and so concerned with being perfect and having everything all figured out. And now I've gotten to a place in my life where I so do not have anything figured out. It may look a certain way on the internet or just other people, but being, I don't know if humble is the right word, but just being like honest and asking for help has opened so many doors and so many resources, and people are willing to help. People want to help. Everyone's been in your been in the situation of trying to struggle, like trying to figure out the answers, trying to get ahead. And there's somebody there that wants to help you move forward and open doors for you. Or if they don't have the answer, kind of try to steer you along.
I mean, again, I go back to the point of why I'm doing what I'm doing, which is I think the basic human need is connection and wanting to be in service of others. And when you can share what you have with other people and it changes their lives, you know, it makes you feel good. And so it's correct that instinctually people are going to want to show up for you and help you, especially if they see you as being someone who continues to show up and continues to have the desire to work and to create good in this world, right? That's inspiring. It's magnetizing. But I will say, I think the most important thing I heard was that negative self-talk that I think you have to try to catch yourself, because I do it a lot and I work on it for myself, of the limiting and the negative self-talk that prevents me from thinking in the way that actually aligns me with what I want. Right. So you saying, I don't know anything. Well, look, I mean, I think it was Socrates that said, all you can know is that you know nothing. You're right. We're all, you know, dummies, right? But actually, you have done a lot, right? You know, you've launched a networking organization that has thousands of followers. Most people have not done that, right? You launched a podcast. Most people have not done that. You have hosted events that are fabulous. Most people have not done that. You have pivoted into a career that you knew nothing about and now are establishing yourself as an expert in that space and one of the few women to do that. Most people have not done that, right? So rather than saying, I know nothing, we can say, I am learning, I am growing. My intention is to create good and to inspire and to help. And the world is ready for that. And the world wants to support me in that. And then that becomes like no mistakes can be made, because every mistake is growth, right? Every hit, every tragedy, every trauma, everything that comes up in your life is an opportunity for growth and for development. And if you are one that believes in this kind of fatalistic fashion that you are designed to go through exactly what you're going through in order to become the person you're meant to be, then you are looking eyes wide open and saying, oh my gosh, okay, now this, let's figure out how to move through this, and then this. And then you say, all right, well, what's my North Star? What's my North Star? I think it's to make something of myself that is in service of this world.
And I think it's figuring out what is your North Star. And it's okay if you don't know. And it's okay to go through different iterations of yourself and trying to find what drives you and what gives you purpose. And it's okay for that North Star to change. But I think for me, from my own experience, as I've gotten older and had more life, my North Star has gotten clearer and more focused, and just doubling down and having this like unwavering commitment to, this is my purpose, this is my mission. I'm not sure what the steps are that are going to get me there, but I know where I want to go. And I wanted to bring something up interesting because it came up in a conversation I had with somebody a couple of weeks ago, but it's about women. And I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but it's women, we tend to be more critical of ourselves. We tend to have more self-doubt. We tend to, exactly what I just said a few minutes ago is, I don't know. Whereas men, when they're in entrepreneurship or in the business space, they're almost the opposite. And they are, well, this is my company. This is what I'm doing. Even if they haven't even sold a single thing yet or raised any money, they haven't done anything. They have a very different approach traditionally, where they are just so committed and so like almost delusional on their vision. And I think it has to do with like the masculine and the feminine approach to business and to life. But I've gotten really into manifestation, and whether it's Neville Goddard or Joe Dispenza or Gabby Bernstein or any of these people, but you have to adopt this. They all say you have to adopt this mentality of, I already have achieved the things in my life that I want. And now I'm living as if I'm the person that has all of these things, which the bridge of going from, I don't know where I am, I don't know where I'm going, I only know what I know, to doubling down on, I know exactly who I am, even if I'm not there yet, or the money isn't in my bank account, or I don't have the partner or the house or what the things, or even the feelings of the love and the support. How do I act as if I have these things already?
So your question is, how do I believe something that is not yet?
Yeah.
I think we'll go back to what I first said about the North Star, right? Yeah. And you saying, well, it's unclear, it's nebulous. And then you said something really important, which is it's becoming clearer and clearer. Right. You know, in filmmaking, in storytelling, the main character always wants a thing. Right. And figuring out what you want is very difficult. And I would say it's actually the number one problem people have. Yeah. Not knowing what they want. But ultimately, most people want the same thing, which is
connection.
Love, right?
Love.
Connection and love, right? To feel seen, to see, to understand and to be understood, right? It's all in the same cloud, right? And so you just know, I'm going to anchor myself in good. I'm going to anchor myself in connection, in love. And that becomes your North Star. And then when you don't know how to talk yourself into the best version of yourself, that thing that you aspire to, because the reality of it doesn't make sense, then you find the reality that does. Right? Which is, I am deserving. I am capable. I am a person who is working and becoming this version. And your verb usage, right, is important. Right. It's important because this journey is a journey. It's not a linear one. And anyway, we're going to get to the end, right? It doesn't have to be like this. And in fact, that's probably the least scenic version, right? And so instead we say, how do I move in this way to get me where I'm supposed to go? That's beautiful. That has real, like that cuts you of some of the nonsense that you've attached to, right? That breaks you free of generational trauma or the voices inside your head, right? And so you just keep finding that path has to change and that language has to change every day. I mean, I literally thought to myself today, getting dressed here, I was like, what is my mantra today? You know, is it that and I'm not this like mantra queen, like I want to be, but I'm not a person that comes up with them instinctively. But it's like, you know what? I was thinking if I had to say something to myself that I would say to my kids that most people would say, it's that I am grateful that I'm alive, that I am healthy, that I am loved, that I love, that I am moving towards all my dreams. I am attracting everything that I wish in this life. I am attracting great success and love and health and prosperity and joy and connection, right? I'm anchored in raising my children to have a beautiful life of independence and joy and fun and conviction, right? And you just keep finding those words and massaging them into your experience, right?
Until it becomes reality.
It is reality. It is actually reality, right? The thing that we do a lot when we're young, when we're kids, right? When we're kids, we just can't wait to grow up so we can do this and that. The actual reality of your life is the paradise. It's the dream. Even in your worst of days, it could be worse, right? Even when you're not even close to that big goal, you're actually closer than you were yesterday, right? So that's the shift. The shift is falling in love with your life, seducing yourself with the grind, making it make sense to you because it's just one of those things you need to go through to get where you're going, right? I mean, my house right now looks like a circus. Like there are dirty dishes, cereal boxes, shoes, socks, everything, right? Like that's just how I left the house today.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay because that grind is like, thank God.
Right.
Thank God I have a house full of children. Thank God that I get a house.
Yeah.
You know, thank God I had food to make those plates dirty, right?
And you can clean it up tomorrow.
Or the ants will clean them up. Oh my God, right?
But the dog will clean it up.
But the point is exactly distinguished in what you just said, which is that you are it. It's happening right now. Your mere existence is the miracle.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. So we're going to wrap up with lightning round. We always end with this or that. So peer support or expert-led sessions?
Both.
Closed beta or public launch?
Depends on the product.
Okay. Community first or content first?
Community.
CAC, customer acquisition cost, or LTV?
Depends on the product. But I would say CAC because you can't spend before you know.
Raise prices or increase access?
In my case, my lesson was raise prices. But again, it's very product
dependent. And you had such different types of businesses.
Yes.
Small high trust groups or a large open network?
I mean, these are all depends. But I can speak to one business or another has a different answer. And so that's my answer. No answer.
No answer.
Yeah.
Miami or LA?
Miami all the way.
I'm right there with you.
Yes. Although LA has a piece of my heart.
What is one thing listeners can do in the next 24 hours to support themselves or a friend after some life quake?
Well, listen, the first 24 hours, you have to ask and answer certain very important questions, which are, am I safe? Right?
Yeah.
For you to address your nervous system is the most critical thing that you can do when you endure trauma or a major change. You must establish safety for yourself. That is the first step of self-care. Then the next step is to create the framework for how to exist in your new reality. And then I would say after you've become aware of that reality, and perhaps begrudgingly, and you've sought some of the resources that you're going to need to kind of keep moving forward, DayNew is a wonderful place to start. It's a great space to connect you with your community, to support you in the way you need. It's a great space to explore and dive deeper into your own emotional processing and to get yourself a framework for the self-care that you need, especially during transitionary times.
No, those are all great points. Where can our listeners find you on social? We'll link everything in the show notes, but would love to hear from you.
I'd love people to connect with me on Instagram or any social under my name, Karine Nissim, or my handle, Karine Dream. And you can also find me on my website, Karine Nissim, if you want to book me as a speaker or as a coach or attend one of my events. And I also have a podcast that you're going to have to come on soon too.
Yes, I would love to.
Grit and Growth with Karine Nissim. So lots of different places, but best start is also DayNew. And we have a social handle, and it's like a new day in reverse. So you can download the app and subscribe and just get connected to our bigger community.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This was so fun.
It's always fun with you. And again, I remain, impressed and proud to know you. So thanks for the opportunity.
The feeling is mutual.
Yes. Thanks.
Thank you. That's a wrap on this episode of Stacked. If this one added value, share it with someone who's ready to level up their financial life. Subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave a rating and review. It helps us keep the show going and reach more people who are serious about becoming their own best asset. You can subscribe to our newsletter at www.stackedassets.co for weekly intel on Bitcoin markets, business, and living well. Follow along on socials at Stacked Assets or my personal at Emily Dempsey for more on Bitcoin business and building the life you actually want. I'll see you next week. Stay stacked.